Welcome, everybody. This is your Nature Journal workshop with your hosts, John Muir Laws and Avea Moore. Today, we are joined by amazing special guest, Debby Kaspari, who is an incredible inspiration to me. Debbie, you don't know that I regularly kind of get on your website, Drawing the Mott Mott, and just look at how you sculpt birds. I think of you as a bird sculptor
I like
because
that.
they've just got you'll see everybody. These things you can just wrap your head, your brain around these, um, and there's some really inspiring marks, and just a love of biodiversity drips off the tip of your pencil. And I'm really happy to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for asking me. I'm glad to be here.
We're going to be getting a chance to look into some of the journals and notebooks that Debbie has put together, and she's also going to be able to show us some of the thinking behind how these marks are made. So I've found, I don't know how I first found your website, Debbie. That's called Drawing the Mott, and I got in there and just found myself spending hours just kind of browsing through, just going like the birds that kind of come from your pencil feel like they are alive. They've got they're doing the real bird things, and just sort of how you make your marks is really interesting. And I was wondering if maybe you just sort of start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got kind of started doing this, and also why is it that you do this? What inspires you to draw birds? What is, I know for me why it's so much fun. What's your experience with this?
Um, I think, I just kind of fell in love with birds when I was really little, and I started sketching them or just drawing them out of my head. And as I got older, I took up birding um, in my late childhood, and it just they're fascinating creatures. So um, they're just a lot of fun to watch. So I became a kind of a gung-ho birder, actually. And I was chasing species and, you know, keeping a checklist and day lists and everything. I really got involved with that. And at some point I realized that really what I wanted was to kind of capture them and have them with me. And I started doing bird art from photos that I took, and that became less and less satisfying. And then I met in the field in Mexico, I met a bird illustrator named Sophie Webb, and she illustrated birds of Mexico. And she was I met her in Palenque when I was down there with a group of birders from the Bay Area, and she was just drawing them in the field, and I'd never seen anybody do that. And she was really good at it, and it really stopped me in my tracks. And I had, up until then, it had not occurred to me that I could actually do that. And she just kind of showed me her sketchbooks and sort of gave me some explanations of how to approach it, and then I started doing it. And then from then on, that became my obsession. And I would go out to the marshes and sketch whatever I could see there: clapper rails, uh, sparrows, geese, whatever was out there. And of course, everything that I drew at first was very stiff and sort of stereotype looking. But the more I did it, the faster I got. And I think I kind of let go of needing to make them look like they came out of a field guide. And I just started just improvising, just improvising on uh, not trying to make it look perfect or anything, just drawing whatever they were doing, because it was so interesting. A bird preening goes into contortions. It's one of the most flexible things out there. I mean, I actually think they're more flexible than my cat. You know, a bird, if you watch it preening, it is able to just contort its body, turn its head, go underneath itself. It's all over the place. And I just started doing that more and more. You know, birds eating, you know, like picking berries off a tree, things like that. And they're just, you're just going for the motion. At the same time I was doing this, I was also going to art school. And one of the things that I did that I just loved doing was gesture drawings in the figure classes. And if you've ever done that, you know that you know, maybe you'll have 30 seconds to draw this human figure, you know, in some pose. And it makes you appreciate where the gesture is, where the body, you know, where the spine is, you know, where the movement, where the limbs are going. And if you only have 30 seconds to do that, or a minute, it forces you to just grab it, just grab what you can get. And that, I think, really helped my mark making, and helped me learn how to capture something in motion like that. So a whole lot of things just kind of fed into being able to do that.
It's interesting. You talk about sort of you kind of gave up this idea of having them want to look like the pictures in the field guides.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for a long time, I thought that I was supposed to have everything anatomically correct and in profile
Yeah.
and in kind of neutral lighting.
Yeah.
And like I saw in in field guides.
Yeah.
And you know, yours don't feel like they came out of a field guide. They kind of feel like they came out of the bush.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's a totally different feeling. Why don't could we open could we crack open one of your
Yeah.
journals there? I'm
Yeah.
going to minimize my screen to make yours bigger. I'm going to remove my spotlight here. So there's your journal. Oh, let's see.
Okay.
See,
So
folks, now you see why I wanted Debbie to come, right?
these
So,
are white-winged doves. And you
oh,
can see there's these, you know, they're just whatever they were doing. You know, I'm looking out the window at these guys.
yeah. Actually,
Actually.
pause here for just a
Yeah.
second, because like this is there's all sorts of interesting things going on here. One, I'm noticing just that these pictures that they're just overlapping on each other, and they're kind of coming to their own little composition, but it doesn't feel like a forced planned composition. This is just sort of what is happening with drawing after drawing after drawing. That one that is looking towards me,
Mm-hmm.
um, and as Ann Chadwick says, doing bird yoga. Um, just such a dovey moment. That other one that is up behind it is so not in a field guide. You know, it's we're from this bottom view kind of up at an angle, most of the head hidden. But this is what we see. And so often I think we end up kind of waiting till, like, I can't see its head from here, I'm not going to draw.
Right. Well, that's, yes, drawing what you see. When you combine it with drawing what you know, I think for birds, that's kind of an evolution. So we learn about birds to do this. We learn their anatomy, we learn their shapes. In fact, we can go from species to species, and they have their own expressions and their own movements, you know, their own behaviors. And we know that. But at some point, you kind of let that go, and you take what you see So I see, I'm looking at this bird from below, and all I can see is the top of its head and just a little bit of its eye.
Yeah.
And that's all I get.
And,
But yeah,
and then I want to point out just a couple of other things here, that something that I think we're going to be seeing in a bunch of these is, in addition to seeing the bird, you're seeing its structure and how light falls across it. That middle one, there's just that little bit of shading across the breast,
yeah,
where I can then get a little bit of a sense of reflected light on the bottom, the light, the top lighting from above. Um, that does so much just to kind of puff the volume of this. So you see, folks, remember when I said that she carves birds? This just feels, this has this sculptural quality to it. The other thing that I'm noticing is that you are leaning into places that often scare me to tread. Um,
oh,
like on that bottom bird, where you're looking across its back into the space of the other wing kind of curling towards you just a little bit, and then some of it flipped inside, where we've got that view of the underside of the wing with a little bit of the top of the wing on that side. That's a subtle thing, and it takes real understanding of the structure, um, and like, wait, and you've really kind of gone all in on, I'm going to describe the volume of this area.
yeah. The volume, I think, is kind of comes from sense memory in a way. I mean, I feel like I can handle the birds, and I have handled birds, but you kind of get a sense of the roundness of it, when you hold it in your hands. And to me, I like to have that feeling in the drawings. But I see the shadings. I can actually, like, look at the bird, and I can see where the light's falling, and I see that the underside of the breast is a darker area. It's a darker plane, but it's not a flat plane. So you kind of learn to play with this, and things that you can do to learn this is set up a little still life for yourself, like with a ball or an orange or something like that. Shine a light on it, and you can render that, and you can kind of get a sense of that feeling.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, volume is kind of like, if you can put that in. Sometimes I don't, but it's a nice thing to have, if you have the time. If the doves were just sitting there for a really long time, I had the time to play with that part of it.
That's really fun.
See,
Oh, yeah.
got a couple of yeah, there's some more of the same. The also we have Eurasian collared doves here too. Some woodpecker studies. They were surprisingly difficult to draw the head of a downy woodpecker.
Yes. Yeah, all those stripes, especially that bottom stripe that does this little kind of weird squizzle.
Yeah, yeah, it is really, I mean, like, between this one right here and this one right here, it's weird.
Yep.
You have to really look hard. And that's the thing about when you're drawing birds, it's like you have to kind of stare at them and kind of absorb what they're doing. Not just the overall shape, but if you're doing something with a pattern like that, yeah, you have to kind of. It took me a long time to get that, actually.
So are you finishing one of these drawings and then going on to the next one, or are you kind of bouncing around between them?
I'm bouncing around. I mean, so if I'm sitting and I'm watching the bird feeders, which are right outside the window, so I can sit comfortably and watch and sketch. The birds, they show up for just a few seconds to a minute, and so the Downy would come back every couple of minutes and grab a peanut. And while it
Mhm.
was doing that, while it was, like off eating the peanut, um, I'd go back to drawing the doves, which were really just kind of sitting there,
Mhm.
nothing in particular. So a page like this.
Oh.
So this is where you can kind of work your way around the page. You can, okay, so I got a downy woodpecker for 30 seconds, and then house finch, and then here's a chickadee that just showed up. And so I'm just kind of, I'm not consciously laying out a page. I'm just, going back and forth around these birds and just kind of jamming them on the, wherever there's some paper. And I don't really care if there's overlaps or not. It doesn't,
Yeah.
you know,
And
this is,
the, the
go
the
ahead.
the kind of hard line, or the harder line that you're putting around the edges of some of
Mhm.
these birds, kind of popping that shape, and some of the angles. I'm looking at that angle on the head of the chickadee on the bottom. Um,
Yeah. Let's
just
see.
this sort of feels so like Eric Enyon. Um, that this line variation
Oh
is
yeah.
just so dynamic and and strong. It's like your pencil is kind of three-dimensionally moving through this bird.
Yeah. The line weights, I it's not conscious what I'm doing, but it's, when you come to something important on, in the subject, I tend to press harder a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that gets emphasized. And then I'll back off and I'll lighten up a little bit on certain other details and stuff. So the line is never continuous. The line is continuous, but it's never a continuous weight. It's
Yeah.
always kind of thick and thin. And I can tell you where I got that. Actually, uh, I was a fashion illustrator, which is when I was in college. I had a job as a fashion illustrator for Mervyn's department store. Do you remember that?
I
I don't
did.
know do they still exist?
I don't know. I don't know, but I remember
Oh,
there being Mervyn's.
Mervyn's used to, before they switched over to photography, but before that, their tabloid came out every week, and it was all illustrators, and so we had a whole room full of illustrators at work doing, like kids in toddler outfits, and which was assigned to a specific artist. Each artist had their own specialty. So one person did high fashion, one person did menswear, and I was assigned uh, boys aged, I think, 10 through 17 or something like that. This is very specialized, a whole bunch of artists all at work. But the thing was, they trained you to do this particular kind of drawing. And it was very fast, very gestural, lots of thick and thin, very expressive lines.
Hmm.
So that's where this comes from, believe it or not. And it stuck with me. So
Yeah, and it really it really does such a great job of defining form, and also you can kind of look into it and see some of the drawing process that is behind it too, and I love seeing that.
yeah,
The,
I just sort of construct them a little bit, just I get I know where the feather tracts are, I know where the anatomy. So a lot of times I will emphasize those structures. Oh, this is when I just did, this is pure watercolor.
so not going in with pencil first.
I think I did a few little lines in pencil, and then I basically let myself go and just did it with watercolor. And that's something I
Mm.
like to do. I started doing that sort of recently, which is just taking the water brush and actually just drawing. In fact, I think there's one or two in here. Yeah, here's one.
Ooh, those see those. Remember I said like you see light and dark so that where the sunlight is and where the sunlight isn't so intentionally.
Hmm.
Ah, and that they love also not just the light on the back and the shapes of the shadows, but the little edge of light along the bottom of the legs, where you're seeing a little bit of that left side backlit.
Well, this is a fun technique, where you actually are sculpting the bird with color, with value, and this there's no pencil underdrawing at all. So this can just be really scary at first, but once you kind of get into it, it's actually a very fast way to depict birds in the field. You know, you just start doing the masses, and then you can work around it, you know, to make those shapes with color. It's sort of negative space. This there's an artist in the UK named Darren Woodhead that I got this from. He's just one of the best to look at in this method. So this is just another method of sketching birds. But oh, I wanted to show you some stuff from oh gosh,
Ah,
just some others. Okay, so this is another Mississippi kite, and you know, talking about the volume. You know, this, you know, the back is all poofed up. You know, it's just kind of huddled in just on the branch, just like that.
yeah, this is, yeah, when we're sort of talking about sort of things being sculpted, I can feel the volumes, and also your value range. You're letting yourself kind of really intentionally use the white of the paper, really intentionally using the um, pushing those darks back in there.
Yeah,
Like, so if, like, I'd like to kind of squint at this and just sort of notice, like, what are the shapes of these darks? And
yeah,
what a delight.
yeah. There's and then this is an example of super fast drawing. You know, trying to get just the gesture. This is a pair of orange chin parakeets in Panama on mangoes. They were eating mangoes. And so,
Hmm.
you know, so one of the things is developing speed, you know, just as fast, you know, drawing really fast and not being careful. So my drawings are super messy, as you can see.
And very alive, and very alive.
That's, I think, the side effect of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Side effect. These are red cap mannequins, and they're doing their moon dance in Costa Rica. You can
So,
kind of see that.
and just as we kind of go across the breast of that one on the bottom,
Yeah,
can you talk us through? Um, I'm I'm seeing, as you're getting to the edges of these, your understanding of these, of the anatomy is just exquisite here. Like, you really know these little kind of nuggets and sections, and then you're tracing how they change their shapes as you go across this little birdie.
yeah.
Um, how do you go about developing this sort of understanding of the anatomy and structure?
A lot of bird watching. I also studied taxidermy. I did a little bit of taxidermy, and that really kind of gave me a sense of how a bird is put together. If you can't do that, something I like to suggest is, and this is going to sound funny, but go to a supermarket and buy a chicken. You know,
Hmm.
and I'm a vegetarian, so I don't do this stuff anymore. But you can actually cut up a chicken and really learn a lot about how a bird is put together by doing that. carving a turkey at Thanksgiving. But
Hmm.
I know that sounds really strange, but it's a legal way to uh, have a bird to dissect.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
But
And
it
then
it all feeds in. Yeah.
and then we have superimposed over that structure the volume, especially on this little bottom mannequin
Hmm.
here. You can feel where this chest comes out, has a little inflection point, cuts back in, and then changes angle again just by what's going on with those, with the lights and the darks, and then the line work itself is wrapping around the form, sort of following this contour.
Yeah, you could kind of see where it goes behind the bird.
Yes.
Like um, so it's a matter of just lots and lots of observation. And if you can't dissect a bird, definitely watch them, because you will see so much movement, you will see so much uh, volume. Birds are shapeshifters, and a
Mhm.
single bird will go through all these different shapes within like a minute. And it's just kind of amazing what they can do. They raise their feathers, they lower their feathers, they turn their heads. There are hard parts that kind of push out, like the cor the bend of the wings, um, the feet, all these
Mhm.
things on a bird. And then there's the really soft parts, like the belly, the breast, the back. They can raise these parts and fluff them out. And depending on what the temperature is like, you will see one that's really fluffed up. Just um, watching one bird as long as you can. It might be sparrows. Some kind of something that you have easy access to.
Mhm.
I've been doing a whole lot of uh, house sparrow sketches. So
Ah.
these are, is that okay? Can you see that okay? A little more light. Yeah, this is a really common bird, and there's
Mhm.
nothing exotic about it, but it's we have a resident flock of them, and they're really cooperative. If you can just sit with one and look at all the different poses they go through. Or, you know, they just do a lot of different things, and the light hits them differently, and uh, it's if you can find a single species that's very cooperative, maybe it's a gull, maybe it's I don't know what you've got around, but just spend a bunch of time with it, and you'll start to see where those shapes are, and especially the proportions. Like this is a big-headed sparrow.
Mhm.
It's a non-native sparrow. It has an unusually large head because compared to native sparrows, it's a different kind of bird. It's actually a weaver bird, but it's I think anyway. It's you get used
Well,
to the proportions.
and on that top right bird, just folks look at the light hitting the breast of that bird and how
This one,
no, no, the one to its right, that
this
little
one,
one right there.
yeah.
Um, just those sharp angles, you really get the feeling that there's like little lumps of feathers that are piled up and kind of tucking back and catching light or not catching light um, against them. This only can happen from just a, such deep observation.
Yeah, it's um yeah, this is kind of how I do it. I want you to notice I this is there's blue pencil here. Can you see that? I started doing that.
Oh, what
Thank you,
fun!
thank you, thank you. That's a really good technique to do the under, sort of like get the gesture down really
And
quickly with the
and it
bloopers.
kind of it then drops away in a way that's not distracting.
Exactly. Yeah, you don't even notice it. I mean, I had to point it out, but it works really well. I think I started doing that like a lot this year. But oh, I don't know. What else would you like to see?
Oh, this is just kind of getting a chance to kind of get this is sort of getting into your brain like this is so much fun. Um, maybe some uh, fast pencil sketches that are sort of showing lights and darks, sort of
Yeah,
sunlight and non-sunlight.
let me see what I've got. So, this is some guans up in a tree. I guess you can, I mean, you can see where the light is coming down on them. And
Yep.
these are really very fast and not very, there's no detail on them.
Yep. It's here today and gone tomorrow.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
absolutely.
the yeah, that kind of when we're looking at sunlight and just how intense that can be, that one that has its head tucked down and its tail drooping. I get the feeling this thing's in a direct beam of sunlight.
Yeah, they were up in the canopy, actually in a tree that was, I think it didn't have any leaves. It was in Panama, a leafless tree on a sunlit day. And so that, let's see, I think that's exactly what that was. Okay.
Avea is pointing out that she loves the Hydra heads. You know how this, as it's moving its head around, you're getting these different poses in.
Yeah, yeah, because, well, yeah, you just kind of grab whatever you can get, and yeah, and so you have a many-headed bird, and they're all kind of useful. You know, each one of those sketches is pretty useful. So let's see, I've got
And that's such an interesting idea that rather you're not thinking about pretty, you're thinking about useful.
yes. When you okay, so if you use these to do paintings with, for instance,
Hmm.
these sketches are tools. I mean, they're used. I use them as inspiration for other pieces. I also just use them for just basic information. You know, I can go back and look at this and go, yeah, that's a pretty useful. This is like this is a nice useful drawing. It's got a nice shape to it,
Hmm.
and I can see the proportions pretty well.
You're
So, you
seeing
know,
through the bird, you're seeing through the branch to understand where the rest of the bird is going to come out on the other side as well. So I'm seeing the full
yeah,
bird, and then the branch is kind of coming over that, so that that tail, as it emerges, makes sense relative
yeah,
to the rest of the birdie.
right. And then the branch gives it something to kind of rest its weight on.
Hmm.
And we could talk about like center of gravity and where the weight of the bird is, which I think is kind of important. Let me see where I've got some. Now I've got like piles of drawings. All right, here's this one's cute.
Oh, oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
So, you know, where's the center of gravity on this bird? This is a motmot, by the way. And you can see this, it was actually sort of tilting back and tipping over, which birds can do right before they fly off, right? So I don't know. That's kind of a random example of center of gravity.
You're using a really soft pencil here.
Yeah, I've found that Well, I like working with softer pencils, but in the tropics, you might have noticed that the humidity in the air can kind of dampen the paper a little bit.
Hmm.
And if it's a very hard pencil, I can't, it's really hard to get a line. So, it just kind of gouges the paper. So the more humid it is, the softer the pencil I like to use.
Hmm.
So that's a little tropical tip. I went to Australia back in the early aughts, and I had all the wrong pencils. I had brought all the wrong pencils, and we were fortunately in a town that had a like a stationery store, and I was able to go and get some softer pencils. Otherwise, I don't know what I would have done. But I needed. It was so humid there. I needed something that could get a darker line. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. These are bobolinks.
In like a totally different style as well.
It is, yeah.
So what are you thinking about here as you're kind of approaching into this style?
This was just kind of boil it down to the almost like turning it into an icon or turning it into a logo or something.
Hmm.
Because this is such a pattern bird, and I really was that was what was attracting me. These bobolinks were displaying, the males were displaying, and so they were doing this interesting butterfly flight over the grass tops, and I was just trying to capture that and also the pattern. So this is like as boiled down as you can get, but it's it was pretty fun to do. I was actually sitting down in the grass while they were displaying around me.
Yeah, you really get the sense. Vea is also mentioning the grasses, and you get the sense that you are down there and appreciating those grasses as these. I mean, those forms of those birds in flight. Those are just flickering above you for an instant.
Mhm.
Um, are they perched doing that display, or is that done in flight?
It's a flight display. Actually it's really amazing. They float. They actually kind of they're not really hovering. Um, they will sort of like spread their wings and just kind of like hover a little bit. And so that's enough time to get kind of like what I call a mental um, snapshot.
Yeah.
And that's something that I try and do as a memory kind of I don't know what you call it. It's a memory exercise, and you are looking at something, and you just do this little snapshot in your head, and you shut your eyes, and you make sure that you can see that little snapshot just long enough so when you open your eyes and look down at your paper, it kind of forms on the paper, just for a few seconds, and so you can try and draw that. And I know that sounds pretty strange, but it's actually pretty workable once you practice it.
That makes sense to me, but I find when I'm trying to do those sorts of drawings, often that kind of image of how it should look and the symmetry of it
Mhm.
will start to very quickly override my memory of what I really did on that right hand bird in flight, where you're looking at it from, yeah, where just look at the asymmetry in those wings. It would be so easy just to draw that as a symmetrical shape, but here that asymmetry that you have been able to capture in it, really just it turns it into a flitting bird rather than kind of a cutout model.
Yeah, and that's part of what the little snapshot can do for you. You're looking, and what you're doing is you're recording what you're actually seeing. And so if you can preserve that rather than getting it overwritten by what what you've seen before, like in a book or a photo that you've seen, if you can preserve that, and it takes practice, but if you can preserve that, then you can get those sort of fine distinctions, between what you've seen, and I mean what you have seen previously and what you actually just saw.
Yeah. Ah, oh,
So
that's grand.
yeah, I like doing that. One of the techniques I do is blind counter drawing. So, and these are really terrible. Wait a minute. Let me find out. Okay, this is a nice. Okay, so we had a few minutes with a little flock of tanagers, and this was in Costa Rica, and these are just, when I talk about blind counter, it's sort of like a modified blind counter drawing, and it's where you're not looking at your paper as you're drawing. You got your pencil, and you just start moving your hand while you're looking at the bird, and it's challenging, but it's really, you can get some very cool drawings that way. And sometimes you'll be so surprised by how much life there is in that drawing, because you're not forcing it.
Yeah.
You're letting your, I don't know, your subconscious mind, your I don't know, what would you call it? Your impulse. There's something, you've just taken your brain out of the equation.
Yep. You're not overthinking it and telling it how it should look. You're letting that
Yeah.
your brain, your hand just respond to the way that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. And so I do these, really very fast. I will do, maybe the first few seconds of that drawing, and then I'll look, and I'll see what's
Is
going
that
on.
blind contour done with the blue pencil, or is that blind contour, are you going with the graphite pencil?
In this case, I used the blue pencil for the blind counter drawing, and then came back with the graphite, because once I have that initial underdrawing, I have the initial gesture in, then I can come in, because I have, like after a few seconds, I don't know where I am. I get lost. So
Yeah.
I look, and like, oh, okay, yeah, the foot needs to go here, or something like that. Here's another starting point, and I can take my eye off the paper and do some more of that even. So yeah, so then I came in with the graphite, but I have a lot of drawings here that were just pure they're just pure graphite.
Yeah.
And
I want to point out something on that speckled tanager on the right-hand page.
Great bird.
Look, folks, at what Debbie has done on the breast of the bird to help her visualize that turning form, and how patterns are going to wrap and move across that chest. It would be so hard to put little spots or speckles on there without any kind of guideline, but that little framework of lines, do you see how that kind of fans out across the chest?
Yeah, this is it's a great way to construct. I mean, even if that bird didn't have that pattern on there, which it did, just the idea of doing that with a drawing of a bird, doing those construction lines, that help you see around that curve, you can actually imagine where that line should go
Yeah,
when you do that. So yeah, this was to help me remember that spotting pattern, but it does, the spots do follow the shape, and they do sort of come out in these little lines.
that's
So
that's really cool.
yeah, it was pretty neat. And you know who you might look at for inspiration on this? Um, Somebody that I have spent a lot of time looking at the artwork of is J. Fenwick Lansdowne,
Mhm.
who uh, I think he passed recently, but he was a Canadian bird artist. Amazing artwork, just beautiful. Um, and he was a field sketcher, so his sketches were constructed. You could see all the feather tracks. You could, they're just beautifully drawn. Uh, his guide to these are really big books. Guide to Birds of the West, um, Birds of the Eastern Forest. They include his pencil drawings, the reproductions of his pencil drawings, and it's fantastic because you can see how he constructed those birds, and how he visualized them, and he was a master at um, the the volume, the form, and showing how things would feel if you were actually holding that bird in your hand. I mean, all of his pencil drawings are available to see in these books. So yeah,
Yeah,
J.
he
Fenwick
often has
Lansdowne.
sort of a finished plate on one side and then the sketch that kind of inspired it on the other.
Exactly.
And yeah, that is. Why don't I grab one off the shelf here,
Oh,
and I
good.
can project that just for a moment for folks, so people can see what um, Debbie is talking about here. If I come on, come on.
I can always run and get one of mine.
Oh, here they go. Here they go. They're just hiding on the side. All right. And I've found his stuff in used bookstores. Um, so I'll let me. I'm going to add my little spotlight in here and go over to the document camera. What? And go over to the document camera.
Yeah.
So there's a little grouse, quail, more grouse, sketches of
Yeah,
salmon.
wonderful stuff.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, I'm now going to minimize my screen again. Is there? People are wondering how to spell Land or Lansdowne. Um, so um, we were wondering if we might just see you do a little sketching,
Sure.
just to of any species that is inspiring, and
Okay. Let's get
um,
my well, okay. I've got on another screen, I have some bird photos. So I'm going to draw a shrike, a loggerhead shrike. You can see there's nothing neat about any of this.
Yeah, you're already, it's sort of getting a three-dimensional form. That'd be coming in not on the pure profile, but sort of a little bit of a turn of the head.
Yeah, a little bit. So, now I'm just kind of zoning in on, this is, yeah.
By coming back in there and punching in some of those lines,
Yeah,
the light, loose ones don't detract from your understanding of the form. If anything, they just sort of make it be a little bit more kind of moving. How do you balance sort of the impact of light on a form versus pigment in the feathers?
it's, I guess it's not doing it super consciously. It's I can see that this is, the dark gray back, and then this gets really black here.
Mm-hmm.
But this part here, I'm sorry, this part here at the bend of the wing is it's got sunlight on it. Also, let's see, this is, a white underparts here.
Yeah. Oh, that just rounded that out. Mm-hmm.
Let's get the bill in here. And the eye. Okay, I'm being careful with the eye. It's a sphere. And I'm looking up at it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm probably. So yeah, I'm looking up at it, and the curve. Okay, so if you have a sphere like this and you're looking up at it, you're going to see it kind of like this. The light is hitting here, it's darker here.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that.
Yep.
Does that make sense? I mean, if you were looking down on it.
And also like that the little rim of light below the eye makes it really kind of pop out from the head.
Right. It's nice to if you can catch that. Sometimes I have trouble placing the eye, and when that happens, I'll just leave it out. I'll just
Mm.
just not put it in. So sometimes it's better not to have it than to have it not in the right places.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking at the that the shadow on the belly that was first just caught with some lines and then filled in. Um, and with sort of more open line work, and the direction of the line work on it tells me something about sort of the direction of the feathers in that part of the form, and also kind of curve around and round that form. You're currently muted. I know that may be intentional. Also, I really like that sort of the slight where the head meets the body on the back, that slight little kind of indent there, that little moment there, really kind of, yeah.
Sorry about that.
No worries at all.
Yeah, I may lose my voice here, but I'm going to try and hang on to it. I'll just.
Quite all right.
Should I draw another one?
Sure. I just want to point out one other really cool thing. That close leg. All right, everybody take a look at that close leg. Oh, like a boss. Right? That dark shadow part, there's little few parts that are where the shadow is kind of punched in a little bit more, then letting the rest be up to your imagination, but also getting that where the leg kind of comes into the mass of the foot. There's a little kind of angle and turn down in there. And that is just so birdie. That is so birdie. In a few places where you kind of get the sense that this is a detailed drawing, and the detail is like crisp and tight right around that beak and eye, and the other parts are just handled so loosely. Very, like I see Bob Bateman do this also, where there will be parts where you know where we're going to look, and you'll just drop a little nugget of detail in there, and other places it's handled really loosely. But because there's other places where there is detail, we get the sense that it is all really rendered, but it's actually just rendered in those places where you look.
Yeah, just places that you want emphasis, like the face and the feet. And actually I've left a lot of information out of the feet. So yes, I'm leaving some of this up to your imagination. And I kind of like doing that.
I think that's so powerful. That's great. We'd love to see you do one other if you.
Yeah. Let me see. Okay, this is I have a black-headed grosbeak here. Okay.
So as Debbie's making these first lines, sort of think about what is her intention with those lines. How is she kind of visualizing this space?
So in this case, I'm actually putting the angle of the body and the angle of the eye in there. If this was an actual field drawing, I would be like, my hand would be all over the place. So let's see.
So thinking about where those ends of the secondaries cross across the back there.
Yeah.
So
So
that
I'm
kind of,
actually making a construction line right there.
yeah.
This is a really complicated bird, even though it's a a finch.
So on that line down the middle of the back, notice how that V coming down on its upper mantle on that sort of by the base of the nape of the neck there, that line kind of comes to a point close to that sort of center line going down. That so she's really thinking about how if there's a line wrapping around the rounded form of a bird, it's going to come out to a point and then it's going to tuck back in more tightly on the far side. Those angles underneath the undertail coverts so important to kind of get that zone in
Yeah.
there. You get really cool angles on a bird in there. And also notice how that base of the tail line is parallel with the ends of the secondary line.
Okay, let's see. End of the tail, you can see it's in perspective.
Yeah.
So it's not a straight down line. It's actually going off like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making this eye round. The head is turned slightly. So I'm kind of making it. Can you see that okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Right. And then you're putting little ridges above and below that eye to kind of set it into the head, the little kind of ring of ocular feathers right
Yes.
around that eye. They kind of set that eye into the head there. Oh, it's so much fun to see you at work. I'm totally in my geek out zone right now. Total attention. Right. Oh, and then that little V on the top of the beak and this will be down the center line of the head. And you see how then the far side of the head wraps around that other side of the bill. That kind of gets that beak just looking towards you, so a little bit.
So I'm gonna start to put a little bit of I'm gonna erase it. I've given myself permission to erase now. I didn't used to erase. I would just like leave those lines in there, but I've started.
There are no rules.
No rules.
And also, like in that kind of corner of the mouth where the bill turns down, there's a little bit of a
Yeah.
punch line in there.
Where the gape is.
Yeah.
It's an actual structural angle right
Yeah.
there. So yeah, you're looking for the angles. Now I'm following the cheek.
What softness of pencil do you usually work with?
This is 2B. It's a
Ah,
2B
my
lead right here.
favorite. Okay.
Yeah.
And are we talking 0.5 millimeter here?
0.7.
0.7, so you get a thicker line.
Yeah. And like I said, I really like the heavier gauges. My favorite pencil in reality is this one here.
What is that?
It is a Kohler. It's a Kohler. Oh gosh, can you see it? Okay. Oh well, it's a Kohler Triograph 6B, and it's a specialty pencil. It's kind of like a carpenter's pencil, but better. And it's really nice. It's soft. It has a great big lead, and I can get wonderful darks with it.
Look
Yeah.
at that. Oh
And
man,
but I can also go really light.
we get that into the hands of our little our friend Ray Bonto, a young journaling friend we have.
Oh,
He would loves to push the darks. Oh,
oh,
this
neat. Yeah.
this is really really fun. So then we're kind of sculpting around this head, and look at that far wing there. That far wing. That's something that always challenges me. Our secondary is coming in here.
There's a covert right
Focus,
there.
yeah.
Lesser coverts. Um, and I'm actually going to put the there's the thunder. We've got a storm coming. But this is a pretty complicated bird in terms of its patterning. So what I did here with the back pattern,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of kind of like that. If you see that,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's shorthand. It's basically shorthand. And now I'm trying to get the black and white pattern on the back, on the wing feathers. I'm not loving this eye so much, but I know the wings get all kinds of interesting shapes depending on what they're doing, where they're being held. Like this bird is holding its wings over its back, but because it's see what I'm trying to say, it's tilting its body. Do you see that? It's kind of it's not completely flat on. It's actually tilted up so that its back is kind of turned towards you. And then when I get to the primaries, I just kind of like to do these angled lines. Do you see that? Because if you look at the folded wing, the angles, start out kind of level here, and then they gradually kind of angle out towards the tip as the feathers get longer and more pointed. So I really want this to look like a black-headed grosbeak. But anyway, this is, yeah. Well, yeah. And then I might, do something like take some watercolor and add, a wash over it or something, and give it a, give it some color, or I might just leave it like this. I could take off that construction line. I don't know. Are there any questions? That there's a. Are you muted?
Yeah, Jack, you are muted.
I was just saying, thank you. I was saying we're going to bounce over to gallery view, and Van and I will be looking for anybody who physically raises their hand or uses the raise hand function on Zoom if you want to be able to ask Debbie a question live here with us. And about her process for birds. So if there are Dory is asking about how do you keep these soft 2B or even 6B pencils from smudging up a storm?
Good question. It has a lot to do with the oils in your hand. So if your hand is fairly dry, you might not be too bad about that. But I usually put a piece of paper under the heel of my hand when I'm drawing, and slick paper like torn from a magazine is really good. Write in the Rain notebooks have really good paper for that. You know, just set it under the heel of your hand and as you're drawing. And also a jar lid works really nicely, like a metal jar lid.
Like a little mason jar.
Yeah, or like a pickle jar or something like that. I like pickle jars for that. But just something that fits under your hand and can slide around the paper.
Like that. When you're doing this in the field, what do you do to kind of reduce that kind of smudging?
Generally a piece of paper. If I'm doing like in the sketchbook, you know, small drawings in the sketchbook. Yeah, a little piece of folded, like a postcard or a piece of, you know, coated paper from like a magazine page.
Are you then removing those pages from your sketchbook so that they don't kind of re-smudge on each other? Or do you keep those pages in the sketchbook?
Oh, I just keep them in the sketchbook. And if for some reason they do smudge, then I just, you know, I lift the smudges with using a kneaded eraser or something like that later.
Okay.
And also these sketchbooks don't smudge as much. The pages kind of stay kind of put, as opposed to the
spiral bind.
The spiral bind, yeah.
The spiral bind, each page really does move a ton relative to the other one.
It kind of does, yeah. But these stay put. So there's an idea.
Let's bring in Ann Chadwick from Point Blue Conservation Science. She's a journaler and conservationist here in the Bay Area. Ann, good to have you with us. You can now unmute.
Thank you so much. Great to be here. In fact, we just had a board meeting with Point Blue Conservation Science and adopted a big budget for next year. So we're really excited about the conservation work moving forward. Lots of opportunities. But I'm loving this session, and I've been drawing along with you, and
very nice.
Not nearly as deftly as you're doing, but just like filling up pages, which is so much fun.
Oh, that's nice.
Just go for it and kind of not let it be too precious. So that helps, but I also have my eraser.
Oh, okay.
But I'm wondering, I've been doing so much drawing from either a computer screen or from photographs, and you're doing quite a bit in the field. And I wonder how different that is for you to do from like a 2D surface and then looking at a 3D surface. And do you have any advice on how to make that transition, how to really see things in the field and get them down onto a 2D piece of paper?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would say to start with, go find birds that are not moving very much. You know, because part of the, you know, one of the big challenges is what are they, you know, how to get them as they're moving. It's not just 3 dimensions, it's movement. One way you can cut down on the dimensional part of it is to shut one eye. Close one eye and everything flattens out. But if you can go to a duck pond and, let's say you go when the ducks are sleeping, you can just sit and draw them as long as you want, and, close one eye if it helps, or just, like start to get adjusted to the idea that, these are dimensional. But I hope that helps.
Yeah, it's probably a matter of just getting out in the field and doing it rather than being on the computer or being inside, That's
Yeah.
probably practice, 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 right?
That's basically it. Yeah. But what you do is you give yourself something that's actually fairly easy at first.
Hmm.
And you can also take reference pictures as well, if you wanted to have those pictures to take back with you to, keep trying with those ducks, let's say.
Hmm. All right, thank you.
So sleeping ducks and herons and things like that, rather than say sandpipers at the start.
Yeah. Things that aren't running or flying or, moving a whole lot. Zoos are really good. So if you can go to a zoo that has, really bored birds, that are not doing anything.
Or
Sometimes
bitterns, because bitterns, when they hide from you, they just go.
if you
can't
find
see
some
me.
bitters, call me up.
I'm not moving. You can't see
Of a
me.
bittern party.
Yeah.
Although, Debbie, this summer we're going to go up to Yuba Pass, and there's a field station up there, and have a nature journaling retreat up there. And
Wow.
Bitternapalooza out in this giant meadow area that Anne has actually been part of the team that preserved and is restoring that area.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
It's a bittern party.
A bittern party.
Anne, thank you so much.
Thank you. Great session. Thanks, Debbie.
So people were wondering about how you use binoculars. If you're
Sure.
using binoculars, are you using spotting scope? Are you doing this all just ones at the feeder? And how do you kind of wrangle all those tools?
I do all of the above. So so my first choice is being close to a bunch of birds that don't mind me being there and just not using any optics at all. That's pretty nice. Second, I like using a scope. I really love using a scope because your hands are free.
Yeah.
So you're looking through the eyepiece and you have your sketchbook either, like in the crook of your arm, or if you're sitting, you have it on your lap. And, you just look, and you can do really good blind counter drawing, modified blind counter through a scope because you're, like I said, your hands are free. You can just start moving your pencil around on your paper, and then you can look. You can just, go, yeah, okay, and then start, look again and start adding. Binoculars, I think, are the most challenging. Let's see. So when I'm looking through binoculars, and let's say, okay, so I've got them around my neck. I'm holding a sketchbook. I'm holding a pencil. This is annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at a bird. Okay, so here's where the flash memory comes in handy, because okay, I'm looking at the bird. I've got to memorize that really fast and get it on my paper. And then presumably I will have something I can work with, I can add to, and then I can get subsequent looks. Of course, that bird is now moved a foot to the left and it's doing something else. Or maybe it's a sleeping bittern. You know, it's, you know, whatever it is, maybe it's still there.
I'm impressed that you found that sleeping bitter.
Yeah, it's really hard to find them, and especially here. But yeah, I mean, maybe it is not moving, and so I've got my binoculars, and I can actually do that drawing without panicking about losing the pose. So, binoculars, great. Annoying. Scope, awesome. But bulky and hard to travel with sometimes, or hard to carry around. I have a travel size scope, works really well. But I didn't take it to Costa Rica just because of the weight, the tripod, the scope and everything. So I just took binoculars. But my happiest moments were when a bird would be within sight.
Yeah.
And I did not have to use any optics at all. So those are great, really fun ways of doing it.
I think what we need is more arms.
Yes. If you can swing that, I want to know.
And then also I have problems with the binoculars and my glasses, and so I'm wanting to.
Oh, you have fun glasses.
Well, they're fun, but then like sometimes I'm wanting to look through my binoculars like this and then draw like this, so it like one more darn thing.
Yeah, I have these are non-optional glasses, so they're I can look down, I can look through the binoculars, so I don't have to wrestle that. But the other thing is, if you're in the tropics, have you ever had the experience of your glasses steaming up? Yeah, that's annoying. Usually that happens when I see a really good bird. My glasses steam up. It's pretty inevitable. But if you can be really calm, and just kind of, even if it's a quetzal, don't get too excited.
Now,
if you want to draw.
If people wanted to go with you to Costa Rica to sketch birds, how might they go about doing that?
Okay, so I just came back from this wonderful course that I taught at a place called Escape to Sylvan, and it's a small eco lodge just out in the most beautiful piece of rainforest wilderness, with waterfalls and a river, just absolutely stunning. And I had a group of 8 people, and we drew our brains out. It was just spectacular, and we're going to do it again next February because it was so much fun. So I think there's some spaces left if you want to contact them about signing up for it. It was a full week with and good food, and very nice place. And we weren't just drawing birds, we were drawing waterfalls, we were drawing trees. I mean, this was an overall
I've
field
seen some of your studies of just vegetation, and it's also so well observed. We've got you have some of that handy?
Yeah. Oh, let me get my. Okay. Yes.
You're seeing the light on the leaves.
Yeah, this was something. These were some of the things that we were doing. Let me see if I can find another.
Do you use fixative on any of these sketches and drawings?
No, just.
I love these are these like partial blind contour leaf shapes?
Yeah,
They are so, you have to look away from the paper to get something like this. This is so cool.
So here's a gesture, 1 minute gesture drawing.
Yeah.
We were doing these as exercises. You know, I can't emphasize enough how helpful this is to do these gesture drawings where you're not trying to get the details. Let's see, this is a 15-minute drawing. So we progressed from 1 minute to 15 minutes. And the deal is that you let go of perfection.
Yeah.
You let go of making making every leaf, right?
Yeah.
You're just leaping into it and trying to get the sense of it. You know, the gesture, the leaves have gesture. If you want to practice doing these gesture drawings and doing, in preparation for doing bird drawings, find something that's not moving. Find something like a plant or, a still life or something. And
look at the light coming through these epiphytes here. Oh.
This was another one of our exercises, which I call the 6-foot landscape, which is basically you draw something within 6 feet of you, or a small area. So we were doing this. This was a happy accident here. This is a gray cap flycatcher. When I was demonstrating how to do blind counter drawing of birds, this bird just landed on a branch right nearby us, and I just
for instance,
here's how you do. But that was really fun. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities to draw amazing birds. You have if you go to the tropics, it's just like birds on steroids, and lots of them. So in Costa Rica is a very good place to do that. So that's
that bottom left-hand bird there looking at you 3/4 view angle. Folks, look at how that beak and eye are set into the head there. All right. That alone is just worth the price of admission here. Oh, see, that's just so simple and well observed. Love this.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a scarlet rump tanager, actually. Here's a kiskadee. Sometimes those really fast little ones are just like the best. This was, so these are, wanted to show you, I got to see the bird that I wanted to see the most, which was the quetzal. And this is field sketched through a scope. We went up into the mountains. This was after the course, and we went up into the mountains and hired a birding guide, and he took us up, and he had a scope. So I got to sketch through his scope, which was sort of heaven. And of course, hummingbirds are abundant, and waterfalls. You can see that. This is working on tone paper with this is my 6B pencil. My by the way, when these pencils get short, it helps to put them in one of these graphite holders. But anyway, this is the 6B pencil plus a little bit of white pastel. So the waterfalls were really nice. We also got to swim in them, which I don't know. So anyway, this, doing habitat is really cool. Pen and ink, pastel. Anyway, that's something that's coming up. I think you're muted, John. Jack.
I've got a little bit of a cough, so I try to
Oh,
cover my
okay.
cough with my mute button and then forget
Sorry.
to mute myself. Debbie, this has been such a rich look into your brain and into your journals and your process. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for spending this time with us. This
Oh, my pleasure.
amazing. I'd like to bring Avea back in. Hey there, Avea.
Hey there. I agree with you. This has been so much fun and super duper duper inspiring. So thank you for showing us your process. And I wanted to make sure there were two other questions into the chat.
Yes.
One question about what texture of paper do you like to use? And then another about that notebook that you were just showing from Costa Rica. What kind of notebook is that with the tone paper?
Oh, okay. The tone paper is it's a Strathmore. It's a 400 series Strathmore tone tan mixed media art journal. It has heavy paper, so it can take watercolor very well as pencil and pastel and other things. It's not toothy. It's not perfectly smooth. It's just like a tiny bit of tooth. But I've sort of fallen in love with this stuff, and I was very happy when they put out one with in a hardbound journal like this, because mostly you have to buy it on a pad, and that's harder to work with. But love this one. This is Stillman and Byrne. My other there's this is Stillman and Byrne, and it's an Alpha series. And the nice thing about Alpha series, it's pretty heavyweight. It's got a little bit of tooth, but so it's not perfectly smooth. You can do pen and ink on it still. It takes really good washes, and it's great for pencil. Yeah, this is kind of my go-to. But I'm right now I'm learning how to do bookbinding, and friend of mine is showing me how to do that. So I just put together a book of Reeves BFK, and we'll see how that goes. But it's another one of my favorite papers. So I think I can have fun doing my own sketchbooks.
Oh, that sounds like an absolute delight. In just a moment, we're going to let you go here. I want to encourage you to bounce over to the gallery view, where you can see all the faces of everybody who's been here with you. If you feel comfortable, folks, turn on your camera and give Debbie some love. We really, really appreciate you being here with us. And I've learned so much just by looking at your work, and even more by being here with you. What month are you going to Costa Rica?
February.
That's in February.
Yeah, that's in February.
That sounds like an amazing, amazing experience. Again, just delighted and deeply grateful to you for spending this time with us.
I'm honored and thrilled to be here, and thank you for asking. And it's nice to see all of you. Thank you.
Great to see you too. And Avea Moore, thank you so much for helping wrangle and manage these sessions. Again, big shout out to the amazing Debby Kaspari, or Kaspari, that we are just honored to spend this time with you. Take care, everybody. Be kind. Try. You know, if we just don't make marks on that paper, nothing's going to happen. And the more we do this, the better and better and better we get. You can absolutely do this. And I think we see just tons of fearless pencil miles in Debbie's notebooks here, and we can do the same. Thank you all, and we look forward to being with you another time.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you.